welcome to Fancast Friday. It is the end of the week. It is the final show of the week. We have done DCU Daily. Now we are going to do Fancast Friday. So get pumped for that. We did do the poll. We're going to show that real quick. But Scarlett Johansson in the Batman 2, it is pretty much all but confirmed that she is definitely going to appear in the film. So we decided, well, who she's going to be. We have seen a lot of rumors in regards to who she will be in the film, and we decided, why not have a little fun with it? We've done reverse fan castings before, and you know what? We are doing it for Scarlett Johansson right now, but specifically, instead of many roles in many different movies, we are doing many roles in one movie. So get pumped for that. And then, of course, as always, we have Dan here. Dan, how are you doing today? Are you excited to talk about this? Because who doesn't love Scarlett Johansson? I'm not just talking from a beauty point of view. I'm talking from an acting point of view. She's Black Widow. She was in, Jurassic World Rebirth. Very good actress. We all love ScarJo. Very excited.
I can't wait to talk about this. This is going to be fun. Obviously we're going to talk about what's on the thumbnail, but then we'll go beyond that. We got 5 amazing picks John has got for us, and then beyond that we have a few honorable mentions. And if you are watching live, y'all can definitely give us your suggestions and we'll try to bring those in towards the end. So we got Anthony in the chat, Acres of Movies, Caleb, honka, hello Caleb. All right, so everybody watching, Anthony was first in the chat, and of course you got Emo Nerd Girl, hello. Thanks for joining in, and we'll get into your comments as we keep on going. Anthony, I already threw in a bunch of stuff earlier, so Anthony, I'm going to save those comments for later in the show, so don't you worry, we'll get to those. But John, without further ado, let's talk about how we got here.
So obviously the poll was very close. Ironically, even though people were wanting Animal Man, they're like, no, fuck that shit. But Scarlett Johansson, she has been the bridesmaid, never the bride, for the longest time, to the point we actually probably know what her role is in the movie by now, but obviously it's not cut and dry, so we're like, okay, let's see. But Scarlett Johansson finally was number 1, although Captain Adam will come back for next week's Fancast Friday, in addition to 3 other choices that we can think of. Maybe you guys can suggest them while the show goes on. But Scarlett Johansson, finally the bride. Finally the bride. Not to Colin Jost, but for this show. Real life, yes, but for this show, testing out to see what she will be in the Batman Part 2.
Is that Colin Jost or Jost? I thought it was Jost.
I don't know. I've said Jost. I've heard Jost and Jost, but I think it's Jost.
I'm just going off of like what they say on SNF, so anyway.
Maybe it's Jost, maybe whatever.
The disrespect to Animal Man is wild. Oh, look at that pun. Thank you. I understood that. I'm sure Animal Man will be back on the poll. But yeah, you guys got to vote for this, and you guys picked Scarlett Johansson and whatever role she's going to play in the Batman Part 2. I guess we're going to take a few tries at it ourselves. Captain Adam came in second, so he'll be back on the poll. Cyclops and Jean Grey, surprisingly high. All right, well, John, with that, let's get into it. We gotta fan cast it up. So
fan cast it up, indeed.
Now,
so
before we get into it, quick format update. So, just if you guys are watching this for the first time, we do this every week, but we will have 5 picks, then we'll have 3 honorable mentions. After each pick, we will give you our pros and cons for why that might be a good fit or not. We're going to look through the likelihood meter, which is basically, going from talking about why they would be a good fit for this role or not a good fit, to talking about how realistic is it that Scarlett Johansson would be playing this particular character for today's show. And so we'll talk about how likely is it that James Gunn, Peter Safran, or actually in this case Matt Reeves, would have picked her to play that particular role. How likely? So we will try to look at it from all of these different directions. And of course, if you're watching live, we'll bring in your live comments. We already got Justin Geek, you guys throwing in a super chat. We will definitely circle back to this, but just want to put this up here. Silver St. Cloud, you know what? Good idea. Rich Elitist with commitment issues. Thank you for that super chat. But John, with that in mind, you made the picks. So why don't you walk us through them? We got 5 big ones, and we got a few honorable mentions.
Yes. So the first one we have, we already have the most obvious one because, it's on the thumbnail. It's damn good art. I forget who the artist is. I'll try to look that up during the show. But obviously, the first one we have is Andrea Beaumont, who is a rather more so unknown character. She only really appeared in one movie back in the 90s, Mask of the Phantasm. Spoiler alert, she was the Phantasm. It's been 30 fucking years. I think you guys can handle, the fact, a little bit of a spoiler, but she has appeared in the comics. I think I remember reading somewhere it was like, oh, Tom King introduced her in the comics, where it's like, oh, cool, another character Tom King ruined, yay. But in terms of Andrea Beaumont, it would be the most unique adaptation for a live action film, going from, this little kind of, for most like casual Batman fans, kind of non, like, just to us, to big animated series fans, to big Paul Dini fans, we remember it, we love it. It's considered technically by many one of the best, if not the best, theatrically released Batman movie of all time. But for casual fans, they don't really know of it or remember it, but it would be unique because of the obscurity of it all. People forget that it even got a theatrical release because it bombed, so there's that.
But it was in our tier list
because
Tuesday for
yes,
that.
It was on our tier list
for Batman movies. Yeah.
Yes. So with this, it would be very unique because it's from a animated character that was made for that. But hey, if Harley Quinn can become like a mainstream hit with people, why not Andrea Beaumont? So it would peek into Bruce's past, which we haven't gotten a lot of, considering, they did want to avoid the origin story. They did talk about how, they did talk about his parents and what they were before they were killed, but we didn't really know a lot about Batman. We know like the basic gist, but we don't know specifically the things that Batman or Bruce went through to like kind of become Batman. He just kind of did. But again, that was there's a reason for that, because we've gotten, like, we see the Waynes getting shot so many times that, we were like, we don't want to see that again. So Matt Reeves like, all right, let's not do that again. But even then, we haven't gotten like the in-between point of like them getting shot, him deciding to be Batman, what happened between that. And well, Mask of the Phantasm did give us that, of like, Bruce could have led a normal life before he became Batman, so they could bring that aspect into this version of the character, which would be interesting. So
I just wanted to, so just for anybody who doesn't know the Mask of the Phantasm, like the context of the story and the character, can you just give us a TLDR on that so that we're caught up?
So essentially what happened was Bruce was dating this woman, Andrea Beaumont. Her father, I think, owed money to the mob, and they needed to get out of Dodge, so they left. And because of like the heartbreak, that Bruce ultimately decided to kind of become Batman. Her leaving wasn't the reason why, but that it was like the tether that like held him to reality. That eventually, once she was gone, he realized the only thing I have left is this mission that I promised to my parents years ago. So then he finally doubles down on that and becomes Batman. And Andrea Beaumont, well, her father was this guy called the Phantasm. She adopts that and eventually goes on a killing spree after her father dies. She goes on a killing spree and kills all the people associated with it, one of them being the Joker. So we do get a little bit of an origin for the Joker a bit in that movie. So there's that too.
But so, I mean, this could work well because they already introduced the Barry Keoghan Joker, which seems like they've already he's obviously already
I can't imagine them doing that because like
so
they essentially, in the animated series, they adopt the Tim Burton term, like, backstory that he was a gangster and then became the Joker. He became the Red Hood and then became the Joker. So I can't imagine them doing that, but like maybe they can make it work. I don't know. But I think it would be a good challenge to her because we've mentioned this before, how she hasn't really played villains. She hasn't played a lot of villains. So it would be interesting for Johansson to really go in that direction. And, but with the pros, there's the cons. Even though Geeky Guy already brought this up in the chat, everyone would kind of see this coming. Yes, it's an obscure character, and I bring that up later, but maybe they want to avoid like an obvious thing, kind of like what they tried to do with Batman Hush, by like, oh, it's going to be Thomas Elliot. Oh, no, it turns out it's the Riddler, who was a joke, and he wanted to like become Hush so that he wouldn't be a joke anymore, which was very dumb. But everyone would see it coming, so they were like, let's not do that. And as I said before, while it would be unique, maybe she's a bit too obscure for people, considering she's appeared in like one comic and one movie, so that might be too obscure. And as we mentioned, Johansson doesn't really play villains, and maybe she does want to avoid that. So yeah, for me, I think this would work because, as Caleb just said, it fits with the grittiness of the character. Because, like, she's an illusionist, which, like, brings in like prestige stuff. Even though this isn't Nolan's movie, Matt Reeves kind of borrows from that, so it kind of works. But she is an illusionist, but it's all based in reality, so you could make that work. Being a phantasm, quote unquote. But I really think this would be I really like this character. I think it would be interesting to see it for more of an adult audience. Not saying that the animated series stuff was like bad because it was for kids or anything, but it would just, how would Matt Reeves handle this character? What would the differences be? What would the similarities be? If she would be the Phantasm, maybe she's just Andrea Beaumont in this movie, and maybe it makes Bruce question being Batman, like he's already Batman, and then Andrea Beaumont comes in and she's the normal Tether, and then like there's that, but he's already Batman, so like they could make that work. But it would be interesting if like it was beforehand or during, so who knows.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Matt Reeves has already hinted at the idea that in this movie he's going to be like Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne is going to be struggling with the idea of like it's becoming harder to be Batman because he's like on a personal level, he's like, am I making a difference? And obviously he came to a realization that in the first movie, like the vengeance isn't what he should be looking for. It's more about being that beacon of hope. But I can easily imagine like like Gotham is not exactly going to become Metropolis overnight, and the crimes, the criminal underground of Gotham is not going to change overnight. So this would figure very well into the idea of, like you guys were saying, it's going to be a very realistic, but well, not real in the sense that you can ground this character in the kind of reality that the Batman universe, the epic crime saga, depicts. Like you could see this character fitting in very naturally into that world. You can also see how this character would have a lot of layers and can kind of play in the grays rather than be a very black and white character, which is exactly the kind of thing that Matt Reeves has so far given us in this universe, which makes the Batman as good as it was. So yeah, I mean, all the pieces are there, and like I said, like the evolution of the character of Batman, which by the way, Matt Reeves has said he wants to keep these movies focused on Bruce Wayne's Batman, right? Like he wants to keep it focused on Batman. He doesn't want it to become like, like The Dark Knight is a great movie, but a lot of people love it because it's the best depiction of the Joker, right? So he wants to make, but whereas Matt Reeves is like, I want to keep the focus on Batman. So I think with Andrea Beaumont, you have a character that has that built-in connection to Bruce, and at the same time, while is going to provide a lot of intrigue, and Scarlett Johansson is one of the best actresses working in the business today, and certainly brings the star power alongside that. It wouldn't take away from Robert Pattinson's Batman, I don't think, right? Like, because as good as the Penguin was in the first movie, and as iconic as depiction was from Colin Farrell, to the point he's got his own show that might even be getting a season 2, ultimately the Batman very much was a Batman movie. Like, it wasn't a movie that you watch simply for like, it wasn't a movie where the villain overshadowed Batman. And I think Matt Reeves obviously has shown he can do that. And I think with this character, he can do more of that and advance the story of the Waynes, the story of Bruce, while at the same time balancing, the scale so that this still feels like a Batman movie, not one that feels like, oh, it's it's the villain that movie with Batman fighting that villain movie. Like what I mean? Like, it's kind of like for all the good things that everybody says about the Dark Knight, I think that maybe is one potential knock on it. And the Nolan movies in general were known for that, like Ra's al Ghul, Bane, like these iconic villain castings. Good night, Ewan or girl. Thanks for checking us out while you were here. And then hit the like button on your way out. Thanks for stopping in. But yeah, John, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it could definitely bring in a lot of aspects that with Bruce's character background or otherwise. So yeah, no, I haven't seen The Prestige yet. I just know that illusion based shit is in that movie. So
all right. So then, what do you think about the likelihood of this? Yeah,
I think it's like a 7. I think it's pretty good, but I think she's just too obscure of a character that it wouldn't really be on their minds to really do it. But I think it is very likely, to the point that the fact that like enough people have been recommending it, that yeah, maybe it could be, but not as high as you would think. So I think it's likely, but maybe not too likely. But the next person we have is Poison Ivy, another gorgeous redhead, so that makes sense. So in terms
John,
of...
I just want to say the fan art for this, thirsting. Just, I would totally appreciate this casting. Just gonna preface with what you're gonna say with that. So, go ahead.
But she can. But the thing is, Scarlett Johansson, beautiful woman, entrancing people with, like the pheromones and beauty. Well, I'm pretty sure Scarlett
very believable. Very believable.
Even though it's more the surface level concepts of the character, not really the nitty gritty, it could work. The character in live action needs to be redeemed after, Batman and Robin, and Gotham, the weird fucked up shit they did in Gotham. She needs to be redeemed. She needs she's a good character that needs to be redeemed. And it would be a different portrayal that could work. It could, considering the world this is, it would be very different. Maybe she's just a botanist and, she kills people with, like poison made from plants. Like, I could see them doing that. But with that, if you don't want to tweak the character too much, then it's not grounded or realistic enough for Reeves. She's, has like all these like, the Riddler was essentially just the Zodiac killer, and there's nothing that would really make it comic booky enough to make that work. So it's not grounded or realistic enough. And as we said, Johansson doesn't really do villains. And it's one of the more out there theories. Like, I think people only chose her because she's a redhead, and Scarlett Johansson's has portrayed redheads in the past, like Black Widow being a redhead. So that's kind of it. It's not really a lot. Would she be good? Probably, but I don't think she would be the greatest for that. I think there are other actresses that would do this a hell of a lot better. And I mean, you could, but the thing is, then it's like, it's not even Poison Ivy anymore. That's the thing about the character, is like, she's not even Poison Ivy. Kind of like with the Riddler, he's barely the Riddler. So he's honestly more Mad Hatter than the Riddler. So for me, I think, would I like to see this character? Do I think Scarlett Johansson could be a good job? Sure, but the groundedness, she doesn't play villains. It's kind of out there. I don't think it would work. Would I not mind it? Absolutely.
Hey, Bane.
But I think there are better choices and better villains to be in this movie.
Yeah, look, Poison Ivy could be an iconic portrayal. Like, in terms of, you've seen, why am I forgetting her name right now? I see her face on mine. Why am I forgetting her name right now? From Batman and Robin. Somebody tell me the iconic 1997 Uma Thurman. Oh.
Uma Thurman.
She's in that song. Anyway, Uma Thurman had an iconic portrayal, like for better or for worse. I think Scarlett Johansson could have like the modern classic, like, definitive iteration. She could do that. She could do a really iconic Poison Ivy. She's got the acting ability. She's certainly got, the looks, the physique, so she can absolutely pull that off.
Oh no, the height! They're
And
bringing in the height.
I
Oh
don't
shit!
think I don't. I think you were being a little facetious figure drawing, but uh, I mean, look, Scarlett Johansson certainly played a lot of roles where she's been scantily clad. I don't think this movie is going to be one of those necessarily, figure drawing, but height honestly doesn't matter, although I think you were being facetious. Poison Ivy could be grounded as a serial killer, like John, you were saying. So it would be a little repetitive, but then again, I think if you remember back to what Matt Reeves said, he did say that they might be going with another serial. Now, if you go back to when this was originally reported that she's joining the movie, uh, it wasn't like I don't believe it was reported that she's gonna be the villain of the movie, right? She was gonna be one of she was an antagonistic character. Maybe in a supporting role. Now, again, this is not official, so maybe that's just what the sources have told all those outlets. But ultimately, okay, thank you, figure drawing. But this is a different movie. We're talking about the Batman Part 2. But as I was saying earlier, like it doesn't mean that she's playing the. I mean, look, she could play Poison Ivy, and that could be one of several villains in the movie. We just don't know this enough about the story to know if it's gonna be that there is one villain like the Riddler. Because even like in the Batman, while the Riddler was the villain, the gangs in New York were, like the mob were the bigger
gangs of New York.
Yeah, sorry, couldn't avoid the pun, but basically, well, it's not even New York; it's Gotham City. But yeah, like it was the mob, like that was the overarching, like, antagonistic force Batman was going after, because these are movies that are a little more grounded in that sense of reality. So there's going to be more than one antagonistic force. So I can see Poison Ivy being part of the picture, but not being the villain. Or she could be like the Riddler equivalent and then have, more things to do with the mob and like something else going on. There might be a Joker connection because we know the Joker exists. We know the Riddler is like locked away. There have been hints that we might get to see the Riddler and Joker. We might get to see more of the Arkham Asylum inmates and see like what they're up to and how they figure into things. A lot of people speculated based on the themes of the first movie that it was going to be an adaptation of The Long Halloween. Ultimately didn't quite turn out that way. Given this movie still takes place, I think last check was still going to be a few months after the events of the first film. So not that far from, the events of Batman and the Penguin. It's not Halloween, but it is winter time, right, John? I'd imagine this would be February and March, like the events of the movie, at least when it kicks off, if you go off the timeline Matt Reeves has pitched, which could lead to a lot of visual metaphors for Poison Ivy, because, like, plants are usually not blooming around that time, but then maybe by the end, I don't know. I'm probably just going way off the wire, but I would just love to see Poison Ivy being played by Scarlett Johansson. That's just a general statement. Whether that works in this movie or not, John, like, talk about the likelihood meter, because I don't know how likely this is.
I'm gonna say, well, yes, but actually no. It's just there's too much going against it. I wouldn't want to see Poison Ivy in this universe. I think it's just like Scarlett Johansson is hot, and they want to see her as the hot, sexy Batman villain. Like, that's kind of it. So,
although I don't think like Scarlett Johansson wouldn't have signed on to this role for that reason in this part of her career. But like,
to me,
right?
I don't think the character would work in this universe. That's what I'm essentially getting at. And I don't think Matt Reeves would, do this character.
Yeah, and then what's more likely to happen if she is if this ends up being true, that she is playing Poison Ivy, what's likely to happen is she's likely not going to dress in that like whole leotard like what we got from Uma Thurman in the 90s. She's more likely to, like, maybe show up at a ball in a ball gown that's like Poison Ivy green with the red hair. That's the closest we're going to get to the comic book, look of the character, probably, if that were the case. But yeah, good pick. Good pick. Caleb saying, the more I think about who should be the villain of the Batman Part 2, the more I realize how the series limits its potential with the grounded tone. I don't necessarily agree with it. Because, like, the best iteration of the Joker and the best iteration of Bane and probably, at least in my opinion, Ra's al Ghul were all in this very grounded version of Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. So I think you can do it. You can have definitive iterations of characters in these grounded worlds. You know, it doesn't always work out, but I don't think that's necessarily disqualifying in and of itself. Yeah, I mean, Eric, completely agree with you. Scarlett Johansson, it looks, obviously she's beautiful. She's got the physique. She's played, you know, roles in superhero movies before, so she knows like the physical demands of it, the shooting schedule, and like working in a big Hollywood studio tentpole. So as on a whole, she can play any character. Like her range is immense, and then she's diversified over the years. So yeah, the only Ra's al Ghul. Well, I mean like between television and film, Caleb. Liam Neeson is the only film version, but there's also been other versions. But I don't know if that's a fair comparison. But anyway, yeah, I agree with you, Eric. She's got the range to play many characters, which is why we're doing this. So let's keep on going.
Speaking of range, let's go with not a villain this time around. They could, you know, I remember I think Anthony was talking about this in the chat, or maybe somebody else was. I don't remember. But somebody was saying, Anthony was saying Vicky Vale was, you know, she's been in Batman media before. She was in the Tim Burton movie. I think she might have showed up in one other movie, maybe, probably not. But with this, they could either make her just a small supporting character, or they could make her a villain. Because in Batman the Telltale series, they completely reinvented her character she was a journalist, but it is eventually found out she was actually related to the Arkhams, who were the people who made Arkham Asylum, and, you know, there was like a lot of dodgy history with them, with Dr. Arkham, fucked up experiments, that kind of thing. And so she was one of the Arkhams. Her parents get killed. She gets adopted by the Vales, and she becomes Vicky Vale, and they like abuse the hell out of her throughout her entire childhood, and she becomes fucked up, and she eventually becomes this character named Lady Arkham, and or I think it was just like Arkham something Arkham. But they could make her a twist villain like later on, or they could make her a supporting character. Whether she is a love interest or just a journalist, it could bring a new layer to the film. Like, again, you know, you have the whole idea with like Robert Pattinson's Batman struggling. Well, Catwoman was kind of sort of not really a love interest. She tethered him to Batman. Well, Vicky Vale, if it's not even a love interest, just a supporting character, could tether Bruce Wayne to reality, and she would be like something else entirely. And she can be connected to the roots of Gotham City if they do decide to do the Arkham twist. But kind of like with the whole thing with you know, Bruce's mother being an Arkham, so they could try to do something with that. So I think those are all good, whether she would be like this Lady Arkham villain, which I don't think they'll do, but they could bring in the idea of her like being connected to the Arkhams. That could be interesting. And being connected to the Arkhams could also bring about another arc that I'm going to bring in later. And I think she could also do some interesting things with Bruce's character, not being a love interest, because as you could see from the second con, they already did that song and dance before. They already did Vicky Vale as a love interest in Batman 89, so they're probably not going to do that again. And if she is Vicky Vale, she would be a really small supporting character, even if they do some interesting new things with her. It would be too small of a role for such a big actress. Obviously, they're going to give her a big role because it's motherfucking Scarlett Johansson, of course. So, but with Vicky Vale, unfortunately, anything they do with the character, even if it is a twist villain, they've done that in Batman, the Telltale series. Oh, she's a love interest. Well, they did that in Batman 89. The only thing they could do is like keep her a journalist, but I don't think that would be terribly interesting, even if they do connect it to the Arkhams, if they do connect it to Bruce. I think, you know, but anything they've they'll do with Vicky Vale has been done before and done probably better. So, well, I think she could do
you
the role.
can't judge it before they do what they want. I mean, I'm just saying, like, you can't
Right.
prejudge that.
But
Like, you
but
know what
there's
I
a
mean?
lot of different things you can do, but I think they've all been done before. But we'll see. Obviously, if this is the case, we obviously Vicky Vale might not even be in the damn movie. So, um,
Well,
but
you got to
there
remember,
are different branches and different
yeah,
directions you can take Vicky Vale as a character, and I think that's important enough to like give it
yeah,
some depth in some way.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
she's not the most interesting character.
right. But here's the thing, though. Like, an interesting character in the not in being interesting in the comics doesn't mean that you can't make him interesting in the movie. But that's neither neither here nor there. I just keep going back to, like, with every pick, what Matt Reeves has said so far. He has said that what he's doing in this movie is maybe he's implied, at least with what he has said, that he's maybe not trying to reinvent the wheel, but he's certainly doing something different with maybe familiar pieces of the puzzle than what we have ever seen before. So that could imply that, much like with the first Batman movie, he brought in Riddler, which we have seen before, but like this iteration was very different. Whether the whole criticism of that wasn't really the Riddler; it was more like the Mad Hatter than the Riddler, or whatever, or close to the Joker, whatever the case might be. His version of the Riddler was a very different, iteration of the Riddler than what we are used to seeing and what we've seen before. And he's implied that he might be doing something similar here. So I think
Mm-hmm.
Wiki Whale, because of that, by the way, hello D Cole. So yeah, I think Wiki Whale would be a character that they can do, especially because Matt Reeves has this penchant for taking a character and then really building it up into a version that would work really well with the story he's trying to tell. And like you said, we haven't seen that villainous side of the character in the live
In a
action
movie.
universe, because you got to remember, like, yeah, we are talking about, like, this bubble that we are in, and look, we are a good community and I appreciate everybody here, but us are a small minority of the general movie going audience. The Batman made like almost $800 million. In order for it to make that kind of money, or even be $1 billion movie, you're gonna need a lot of the people who are just have maybe seen the movies that come out in theaters and not watch the animated stuff, don't really know much about the character. For a lot of them, they might not even have seen, like, a lot of the younger folks who are like your average movie going crowd, they haven't probably even seen the Tim Burton version of the character from the 90s. So they probably are like, who, Wiki Whale? Like, it wasn't like that was a particularly memorable iteration played by somebody who went on to have a huge career after. Or it certainly lives in the cultural zeitgeist in any way. So I think you could easily, Wiki Vale for me is more possible than maybe we're giving it credit for. M2G saying, dude, do it. Do it. He's probably saying it in his best Palpatine voice. Do it. Anyway, let's keep on. What do you think about what is the likelihood meter telling you, John?
The likelihood, I'm gonna say even odds. I think like she's I feel like if they're getting Scarlett Johansson to play Vicky Vale, they would be doing something with that character. So I think, I mean, yeah, so many characters are. Iris West was a fucking ripoff. Vicky Vale was a ripoff. They were all ripoffs, but like it works. But I think they could do good things with her, and even if not, it's even odds. It's even odds.
I will just say this though, and I know I'm not gonna steal your thunder on this, but I do appreciate if this is gonna play into the Arkhams and the Waynes story that's been building since the first movie, then I think that makes it more likely. Because whether they go head on with that in this movie or do it in the third film, I do think that's going to become a growing factor in these movies.
Yeah, but remember, the Arkham stuff was
yeah.
only done in the Telltale series. It wasn't done in the comics. So that would purely be like... But the thing is, what's so funny is that there's a lot of stuff that, whether they knew or not, or didn't, there was a lot of stuff that the Batman took from the Telltale series, interestingly enough. So I'm curious.
I don't think that's an accident. Like, it wouldn't be an accident.
Maybe
I'm sure.
We'll see.
Yeah, like I definitely think like Matt Reeves has said as much. He's like, no, we haven't completely changed like how we're going about this, because people were saying, oh, maybe the reason why it took him so long to do this script, not redo. I'm not gonna put words in Matt Reeves' mouth. Uh, Matt Reeves said, like, look, the reason why it took longer to get this thing done wasn't necessarily because, and then he was sort of just, he's dancing around the actual subject matter, but he implied that it wasn't because he was like redoing things and changing things up. James Gunn has said it's not like they forced him to remove a villain from the movie because they were making a Clayface movie, which, we're not going to talk about that here, but certainly the idea would be that Matt Reeves is sticking with the larger narrative he had in mind at the first movie. And just because the second movie has taken longer to come together, and the Penguin has happened as a spin-off show, doesn't mean he's changed directions. If anything, he's probably doubling down on it, and now he's trying to like make all the pieces fit, because now it's becoming a more sprawling universe with potentially more spin-offs. So, because that's the other thing, John. Yep. If this character is not a one-off, then I would love to see Scarlett Johansson stick around, and whether she gets her own show or a spin-off movie, because clearly they want to like try to build on this part of this particular universe, so that the DCU is obviously doing really well, but they don't want to like let this just be a trilogy of movies with a couple, like with just the Penguin being the only spin-off. So I wouldn't mind seeing, especially like an actress of her caliber, stick around. Although I don't know if she's signed a multi-year picture deal, so that's a different question. But anyway, let's keep on going. We got a few more picks to go here.
Yes. So let's go to the next thing, which I have as Gilda Gold. This was, I know Anthony is probably going to start up like a 700 comment rant about this because he already has been doing it the entire time. But Gilda Gold, this is the most popular theory right now. I believe it might have been Jeff Snyder, it might have been somebody else. They said that the Batman Part 2 is going to more so adapt the Long Halloween, even though the Long Halloween was already used as inspiration for the first film. It literally starts on fucking Halloween, so, just kind of a weird thing, but that's the popular theory as of right now. Could be Gilda Gold, and also known as Gilda Dent.
That was a rumor.
Yep. That's the big rumor. It's obviously not confirmed, but this is the biggest rumor that that she's going to play this character. If they tweak her character, it could make her more interesting, kind of like what they did with the Long Halloween Parts 1 and 2, which were, they essentially made her the holiday killer instead of whoever it was in the comics. I forget who it was. I think it was Alberto Falcone in the comics. So you could do that again, kind of playing both sides of a villain and a supporting character. And she could nail whatever type of character they go with, whether it is this smaller character who's just the wife of Harvey Dent, or they make her the killer this time around and do that. Whatever it is, I know that that Anthony, like, just because he's a new DA doesn't mean that they can't do this character, they can't do that story, because so what if he's new? There is rumors that they are going to make him Two-Face in this movie, and they've already have a Dent that was showcased in the Penguin through newspaper clippings that he is the new DA. And the thing is, depending on the continuity, Harvey Dent became Two-Face, whether he was brand new, been the DA for a while, it's whatever. There's so many continuities at this point that you could pick one and throw one at a dartboard and be fine. So whether he's he just got the job. So fucking what? Just because he just got the job doesn't mean he's not going to be Two-Face here. Or Gilda Gold is not going to be a character here. So, he could be married and the new DA. And just because he's the new DA doesn't mean, they, I feel like that's kind of ridiculous to have a hill to die on that much. It is a weird character, but
I do want to
make it work.
Sorry, I just want to bring a quick question, because, or maybe just to kind of add a nuance. Remember, they wanted Emma Stone originally, and Emma Stone was asking basically for more money than they were willing to fork out for this role. And that's part of the reason why Scarlett Johansson, this is what the reporting has told us. That's why Scarlett Johansson came on board, because she was like, she told her team, like, we need to get this thing. You guys need to go and get me this role, because this just opened up. So she aggressively pursued it. But the point I'm trying to make is, would have been a good fit for an Emma Stone to play? And that, just to kind of again trying to look at it, maybe trying to deduce why Emma Stone and then Scarlett Johansson, because obviously they feel like Scarlett Johansson can fit in just like Emma Stone would have, but maybe thinking of it from that lens, does that change how you think about Gilda Gold as potentially a good fit, John?
I think I think it could be this character. I don't fucking know. We're just taking a guess here, but I do have my cons. The rumor comes from Jeff Snyder. Enough said. Probably bullshit. It is way too small of a role, as Caleb said, and it will require to more so adapt the Long Halloween, which Reeves technically already did for the first film, because the movie literally opens up on Halloween. There are a lot of aspects from the Long Halloween that can be attributed to the first one, and it just wouldn't make sense that they just keep doing the Long Halloween. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So yes, this is the most popular fan theory right now. It's a popular rumor. And I'm just going to say it's just a rumor right now, but like it's a rumor that gives some credence, so that's why I included it here. So yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fair. But I think it's I forget. Well, Jeff Snyder, his sources sometimes could be on the money, but I don't know how realistic this is. It would just, I guess, ultimately depend on, again, maybe she's not even married to Harvey Dent just yet. Maybe that happens down the road. Like it just, this movie doesn't take place very much, long farther into the future. Like, what was it, 6 months, a couple of months? Like, I forget what the exact time. Like, I don't know if it matters too much, but it's not like years after the first movie. So these characters were just around. They just weren't featured in the first movie. That would be the intention.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah. All right, I'm gonna save that suggestion from you, Anthony, for later, because we'll bring your suggestions in later in the show. But John, what's the likelihood meter tell you about Gilda Gold as a good fit for Scarlett?
I'm gonna say even odds, because normally I'd be like, I probably would have given it a 6 if it wasn't for Jeff Snyder revealing the rumor.
It's got the Jeff Snyder effect. Oh man.
Yeah, so I could see at the same time, I agree with Caleb. Why the fuck would you get Scarlett Johansson for such a small character like Gilda Gold that even only like super big comic fans know? So it's just like, yeah, I think it's possible. Yeah, way too small of a character, but it's a Tyler Buzz. Maybe that's like the divert that they'll go with. Maybe Scarlett Johansson doesn't want to play a big character, and she's just like, I want to play a part in this universe, but not play someone huge. So
I mean, but they're paying her a good. They're not paying her as much as maybe what Emma Stone wanted, but like, and obviously Scarlett Johansson negotiated a good deal, but yeah, like, but here's the thing: just because a character in the comics isn't that significant doesn't mean you can't make him a bigger part of the story in the movies. We know these movies don't really, well, the Batman didn't exactly follow the script, or wasn't a very close adaptation of the comics. So anyway, but yeah, let's move on. I think we have one more pick before we get to your honorable mentions. Let's get into that one.
And this is totally out of left field. This is Maria Powers, and she is a character that is closely related to the Court of Owls, which is the big fan theory that's who Matt Reeves is leading to. Maybe not the villain of this movie, but maybe a future movie, and they're gonna, do that. As I said, there was the big left field, but it would feed into a long-standing theory for the sequel, the Court of Owls. So, but the thing is, with that, so the Court of Owls, people have, like, they think they're setting that up. They think, that that's who they're going to go with, that they're setting it up, whether it's the sequel for this one or the next one, whatever it is, they're going to be the villains soon. So, and with that, since we don't know when the Court of Owls is going to show up, even though it seems more and more likely as the days go on, it could either plant the seeds or utilize the Court of Owls fully, like, just kind of more Easter eggs, kind of bits and pieces here or there. It's it would be that plant the seeds, just like, oh, this character shows up and she'll be in like future movies, and she's one of the biggest parts of the Court of Owls. It could be a perfect balance between a big role and a small role, depending on how they use her. So maybe she's doing more so of a contract thing, like, oh, she'll appear as Maria Powers in this movie in a reasonably small role, and then she'll have a bigger role as time goes on, and she'll become a proper villain in a sequel. So it could be perfect balance. However, it wouldn't fit the character, because as you could see, the picture on the left, she's an old woman, so it wouldn't make a ton of sense to have this very young character be this older character. However, but major changes can be utilized to make it work. The thing is, Scarlett Johansson could be playing a different. If the Court of Owls are involved, she might not be playing this character. She might be playing another character, because maybe, there's the whole thing with Oz Cobb. There was William Cobb as part of the Court of Owls. That was another Easter egg. So they might be doing something with that. She might be playing an entirely different character if the Court of Owls are involved, because Maria Powers is kind of small potatoes. So she may be playing something bigger, or maybe a different character entirely. That might be a con. And then I have to move this out of the way. If you're getting Johansson, she would definitely be playing more of a noteworthy character. Maria Powers is not really known, and they probably want, like, if you're getting Scarlett Johansson, you're trying to sell Scarlett Johansson for your Batman movie. So they probably want her to, like, be a character poster, be this, be that, which is something you can do for the Phantasm, something you could do for Poison Ivy. Maria Powers, you can't really do that, because it's like, who the fuck is this bitch? And, whatever it is. But I think the thing is, I just plucked a random female character. She could play an original character that's still attributed to the Court of Owls,
Right.
So I think it's more like this character is a vessel for Scarlett Johansson to play. This is more so like she's part of the Court of Owls, but she can be anybody, whatever. She could be like, she can play Andrea Beaumont, but Andrea Beaumont is part of the Court of Owls. Maybe she's this character, that character, but she's part of the Court of Owls. Maybe she's not Maria Powers specifically. Scarlett Johansson's character is just part of the Court of Owls. That's essentially what I'm saying. But I just used Maria Powers because that was the only female character I saw that was attributed to the Court of Owls, so that's what I used. So that's essentially, this is more of a vessel character than anything.
Yeah, just like a stand-in for. She would be a vessel for the Court of Owls. Yeah. No, I think that's a good pick. Anthony's saying, so John, do you think if it's an original character similar to what you saw? Christopher Nolan did that with Rachel Dawes and his Batman movies. Yeah. I mean, well, that's exactly what you're talking about here. I mean, it could be. I remember
Rachel Dawes was kind of like a, combination of many characters from the Batman mythos. It just, she was entirely new. So there weren't any expectations for her, and Nolan could do whatever he wanted to that character without having to worry.
Bane's saying you're twisting your back too much on this one. LOL. All right. Well, with that, what do you think, John, is the likelihood meter? How likely is it that we are going to see a Maria Powers or Maria Powers-esque character be what Scarlett Johansson plays, a representative or a vassal for the Court of Owls? Again, building up to the Court of Owls, storyline.
I'm gonna say let him cook. I'm gonna say let him cook, because I'm pretty sure they're gonna use Court of Owls. Maybe not in this movie, maybe in a future movie. And that's like, maybe not Maria Powers, maybe somebody else, but like I think it's going to be a let her cook sort of situation.
Anthony seems to disagree. Condiment King, definitely not. But thanks for the comment, man.
But
I like the rating. I think this is low key probably my favorite pick, other than the Phantasm one, at least. There's a couple of good options in here. I mean, I'm just gonna walk through the five that John gave us for a moment.
Walk through them.
Yeah, Caleb, I agree with you, not wanting to rush the Court of Owls story, but it's also a matter of how many of these movies are they gonna end up doing, because Robert Pattinson's already in his 40s, and if it's gonna take them 5 years to make each one, then I don't know if they have the time to wait and sit on the Court of Owls story for that much longer. But
here are our picks. Well, my picks for Scarlett Johansson, the best is probably Andrea Beaumont, but you also have Poison Ivy, Vicky Vale, Gilda Gold, and then Maria Powers, more so Court of Owls, and Scarlett Johansson's a part of that. Yeah. So I do have 3 more characters in honorable mentions. I brought in Julie Madison, who is one of the love interests of Batman. She has appeared in live action before. She was the forgotten love interest in Batman and Robin, who had like 3 lines throughout the entire movie. So maybe she deserves some redemption. Nobody does. And then Silver St. Cloud. She was supposed to be the love interest in one of the original Batman '89 scripts when it was called The Batman back in the early to mid '80s. And then I decided, screw it. Maybe they'll go with an unknown or obscure character. Maybe someone that's so obscure that'll come out of the woodwork and surprise us all. So, yeah.
Yeah. Julie Madison definitely would be. So you're saying this would be a redemptive arc, like she would be an antagonistic force that kind of becomes.
No, I would just say like she would get redemption because she was in a shitty movie before, and she's a pretty good character. So might as well redeem her, right?
But fair, but like this would definitely not go in line with the reporting that Scarlett Johansson is playing like more of a villainous character.
Yeah,
like an antagonistic one. But anyway, and then the next one is actually something that Just Some Geeky Guy gave us a super chat about. ScarJo has Silver St. Cloud, but Gotham already has enough rich elitists with commitment issues. Why don't you walk us through this pick? Why do you think this would be a good one?
Again, she's another like love interest for Batman. She was like in the like kind of mainly in the 70s of the. I think it was mainly the 70s where she was a character. She was set to be more of an important love interest for Batman, but then it just kind of fell through, I think, because of status quo stuff, and it just kind of never became anything. So, yeah, that was essentially what that. Both Julie Madison and Silver St. Cloud are essentially love interests for Bruce Wayne. But
all right, and then the third one is
those are the only ones I could really think of.
So you just obscure unknown character, someone we truly don't see coming. That's actually fair, because maybe that could be an original character. We have talked about it. Like maybe they just go with a character that's not based on anybody in the comics. Christopher Nolan did that before. We've seen it in many a comic book movies. So especially like when it comes to like these more grounded iterations. So I certainly would have put it past the realm of like what's possible. So yeah. All that said, John, let's kind of spend some time now going through the picks that you guys were giving us in the chat, because you had a lot of good arguments. We already went through the Just Some Geeky Guy suggesting Silver St. Cloud because that was one of the honorable mentions, and we talked about Anthony mentioning how Gilda Gold probably wouldn't work because Harvey Dent is still a young DA, although again, I don't think that in and of itself disqualifies the Gilda Dent possibility. But Just Some Geeky Guy also suggested maybe Scarlett Johansson as a Gotham politician, so Bruce can lose his faith in Gotham City's system even further. Remember, we already have the mayor, and while I'm not saying that was leading to a romantic interest arc, but like that new, what was her name? The person who becomes the mayor at the end of the first movie,
like she was like the black girl. I forget her name though.
I don't want to
forget her name.
Yeah, but like she was.
I don't think she becomes at the end of the movie. I think she becomes.
She got voted in, right?
Yeah, I think so. I forget what it was.
Isn't that she's at the convention? It's Belle Riel. That's the name. Bella Riel. Bella Riel. That's the name.
Yeah, again, another original character. That's why I don't really remember her.
So,
that much.
And I'm not saying they were going in the direction of a love interest with that character, but that was the closest thing to what felt like maybe there were some seeds being planted as a possible love interest. So if that is the case, then that definitely wouldn't be where we're going. Scarlett Johansson could be just another elitist in the Gotham upper echelon. Calendar Girl, I don't know if that was a suggestion in jest or if that was realistic.
Calendar Girl, she's a character in the animated series, has nothing to do with Calendar Man. It's just like she's a character. I forget what the I think she suffers from body dysmorphia, where she views herself as ugly, even though she's not. And she kind of goes on a killing spree because I think she is a model. She is essentially what the Substance
that
was,
would work.
But like for Calendar Girl, like it was that kind of character.
That could work. I mean, like Scarlett Johansson, Emma Stone, if she had taken on the role, definitely could fit that description. Red Claw is what do you think about Red Claw?
Essentially another animated series character. She's essentially like a female Rachel Ghoul type, but I think Russian, if I remember correctly. But yeah.
Okay. Eggers, a movie suggesting Rachel Griffiths. I don't know if that's a real possibility here. Scarlett Johansson is Detective Sarah Essen.
Rachel Griffiths is an actress, so yeah. Okay. Detective Sarah Essen, maybe, but I don't really know her that well, so.
Yeah. All right. Let's keep on going. Bane was not harping, but reminiscing on the throwback to 1997 with Poison Ivy. All right, and the Just Some Geeky Guy also suggesting Sarah Essen. All right, okay.
Elite Easy recommending The Court of Owls.
I'm just gonna say this right now. I don't think it's too early to go with Court of Owls in the sequel. You could absolutely, because this is gonna be a 3-hour long movie more likely than not. So you have enough time to build up to it. They laid some of the groundwork in the first movie. You're clearly seeing some of the pieces and the penguins. So it's not like it would be just thrust upon us out of nowhere.
She could be someone from the Falcone family. That could be interesting.
That would be interesting. That would be very interesting. I don't think we're gonna see Sofia Gigante in this, but I would be happily surprised if we got more of the Falcones in this. All right, let's see. David Warner had a great Roz in Batman the Animated Series. All right, so that was not a casting comment. Do you see any more comments in here? I don't know if you guys had any more suggestions. So. I think we got all the big ones down, right? Anthony was suggesting Lady Shiva. Does that make sense in this world?
No, usually she's an Asian character. And the last time, Scarlett Johansson played a character that was reminiscently Asian, it didn't really go well. So, yeah, let's not do that again.
You know what might be a low-key suggestion here? Look, hear me out on this, John. This is my fan theory time. Dan theory time. I don't know. I think Scarlett Johansson obviously is not old enough to play Robert Pattinson's you put them next to each other. She doesn't look like she could play Robert Pattinson's mother per se. So I don't think Martha Wayne would work in the present tense. But, John, think about it. They suggested they showed us there was a troubled past of Martha Wayne, that there's a connection between the Arkhams and the Waynes. Do you think we kind of get a story where we're seeing a Scarlett Johansson play a young Martha Wayne, and then they do something to age her up, and maybe she wasn't dead? Again, this is totally out there, but could that would be one way to bring Martha Wayne into the picture if that were the case. Then you have Batgirl, right. John. What do you think about now? That would be just. I would love to see her as Batgirl. At that point, Batwoman, exactly. But I don't think we're getting Batgirl, but that would be nice. All right. Anything else?
I don't think so. It's kind of just I think she'll play a big character, but not maybe the biggest character. So I hope it's Andrea Beaumont because I feel like that makes the most sense, and it would be a really good character to adapt. And yeah, I think that would be pretty awesome. So that's just me though. We'll see how this goes. This whole thing. But it's kind of it. I don't really know where else to go from here, but we'll see.
You guys are making fun of the Martha Wayne theory. I'm just saying they could make that work potentially. It's not likely, but
Martha. But
3 hours long, I personally err on the side of longer, even if it messes with the story and the pace. Well, I think the first Batman movie was not that slow. I know, John, you and I kind of disagree on this, but I do feel like the time worked for it. Hey, Jose, thank you for stopping in. I know you're a little bit late to the stream, but Yeah, we had a great Christmas. Hopefully you had a great Christmas. And be kind and rewind. We had a DCU Daily earlier. And okay, figure drawing saying if the character is big just because of ScarJo, I'll take it. If it's original, I'm down. And I think on that note, let's take a look at the Tier List Tuesday poll before we finish up, John, because we do have one up. This has been up since this past Tuesday, so if you haven't had a chance to vote on it, it is in the community post section on the channel, so you guys can go and check that out. I'm also going to throw it in the live chat right now, John. But why don't you walk us through the picks for Tier List Tuesday and what the fans have, what you guys can vote on, essentially.
Yeah. So obviously, the first one is James Cameron movies, since Fire and Ash just came out, and we can include it. Well, I can include it. We can review all of his movies and rank them. I mean, it would probably be a quick list since most of them are probably S tier, but it's it's James Cameron movies. In honor of Fire and Ash.
Then we have like 13
movies of the year. Yeah. Yes, and then we have MCU's wasted multiverse characters, which could be fun.
That would be a lot of fun. Oh my god, so much fun. We just roast the MCU for a whole hour.
And then we have Steven Spielberg movies, which in honor of his birthday and Disclosure Day, we're like, let's do
that. Would be an epic list. A lot of S tier.
And then the thing that's winning right now is the top 10 movies of the year. Now, what we would do, because I know Tony commented on this, explaining what the hell would you do for that? Well, essentially, we would take a list, whether it's done by Deadline, Variety, Hollywood Reporter, Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, Letterboxd, a list, just one list. We take what is considered the top 10 movies of the year, and then essentially put those on a tier list, and we would rank them based on what we've seen or have not seen. So, we would essentially just take what many other people consider the top 10 of the year, and then we rank them. So,
obscure indie horror movie.
Just what would be considered for, what would be considered on these lists. So
we're not gonna go the whole route of we're gonna only pick the 10 best movies that are all Oscar caliber. We're gonna balance it out. I think we're talking about overall, biggest ones of the the best movies of the year, the top. And then we didn't call it the best, we call it top 10 movies of the year. So even if it's not necessarily you're gonna win an Oscar, Superman, I think might be a part of it. For F1, I think will definitely be a part of it. But at the same time, you'll probably see Sinners on the list, right? So we'll have a bunch of those. Not Brightburn. Cloak and Dagger's not even a movie. But hey, you know what? This poll is up on the YouTube community post section. The link is in the live chat, pinned to the chat. You can see it there. You can see it in the description for the video if you're watching after we are live. And then, of course, you could just go to the community post section on YouTube and find it there. We're not going to be taking Deadline's list per se, but we'll kind of riff on there's a lot of movies that have overlapped across many lists, as you can see at the end of the year, but we will keep on going. Crossbones was a bit wasted, and Cloak and Dagger, so I agree with you there, Eric. But anyway, I think with that, the Tier List Tuesday poll is up. You guys can go vote for it. I think I'm going to repost it over the weekend, so you guys have it at the top of the timeline in the community post section. And it looks like a lot of you already voted on it, but definitely go check that out. If you're watching us for the first time, hit the like button. We appreciate it. If you're new here, we do this 5 days a week. DCU Daily 5 days a week. We talk about the news from the world of Hollywood, Marvel, DC, Star Wars, and then of course we are here on Friday with Fancast Friday, Tuesdays with Tier List Tuesday, and then the next Fancast Friday will be, of course, in the new year at this point. So that will be the first. This was the last Fancast Friday of 2025, and then we'll have another one in the new year. So the ideas for that, if you have any ideas for what you would like to see on the next episode of Fancast Friday, maybe what should be on the poll for Fancast Friday for next week, that poll will go up on Tuesday. So you have now till Tuesday to get in the comments down below on this video and let us know what you'd like to see as the topic of next Fancast Friday. Until then, John, it's the weekend. This was holiday week of sorts. So is next week, but great shows all around. Thank you guys for joining us. We hope you have a great weekend, Figure Drawing, and everybody else. And we will definitely be back on Monday. It's gonna be what is the date? This is 29th, leading you into the new year. So It will be a lot of fun. Until then, guys, have a good weekend. Have a great weekend. We hope you're enjoying the holidays. Go watch a few movies. There's a bunch out there. And then talk to us about it on Monday. We'll probably do a review or two. Anything else to add to that, John?
Nope.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time on DC Daily on Monday, Tier List Tuesday on Tuesday. Stick around, hit the notification bell so you know when we're live. Have a good weekend, everybody.
And remember, fuck Jeff Snyder and fuck Tom King.